with the Mavericks potentially stealing the number 3 seed from the Golden State Warriors, what do you think it's going to have on the Western Conference playoffs when the playoffs start in April?
So I'm looking at it and I'm saying if it were to end today and we had the 3 seed, we'd have to go up against Utah, who's currently sitting at the sixth. Um, we've split the series with Utah, if I'm not mistaken. If not, we're up one, and that's why we had the tiebreaker over them. So I think we lead 3-2. Whatever it is, um, I think that Utah provides us with a favorable matchup because I don't think that they can guard Luka. I mean, not many people can. However, our weakest attribute is rebounding the basketball and protecting the paint. So our center is Dwight Powell. Their center, obviously, when healthy, is Rudy Gobert. There's not really much of a discrepancy there. We all know that, on paper and in person, Rudy wins that matchup 10 out of 10 times. But in terms of overall, with our depth, with the addition of Dinwiddie, and of course, a couple of our other role players stepping up this season, like obviously, oh my God, Jalen Brunson, like Reggie Bullock. I just had like a complete fart really quick in my brain. I like where we are defensively. We're a top five team. Offensively, we are kind of getting into a rhythm. Luka Doncic is playing at an MVP level. I mean, against the Lakers in 3 quarters, he had a 30-point triple double. I think 37, 12, and 12. Tonight, he had 32, 12, and 9. So, I mean, he's just carrying us single handedly. I mean, Spencer's kind of been on a little bit on a cool down phase since he had those 2 game winners back to back games. But still, his presence on the floor is very much noted because when Luka comes off the floor, we have someone that can not only bring the ball up, but distribute and go and score that isn't just Jalen Brunson. So I think we're in a really good position to make some noise in the playoffs. Bias aside, I think that we could be a dark horse to come out of the Western Conference, depending on how well we play. I do know that that is a bold statement, but we have beaten the top 4 seeds, excluding ourselves. Relatively simple this season. I mean, aside from the Suns, who beat us almost every single matchup, we've been able to combat the Grizzlies, even with John Morant injured and healthy. We've been able to beat Golden State the majority of our matchups. We've been able to beat Denver. We've beaten Utah. I mean, I know Minnesota gave us a little bit of a whooping a couple of weeks back, but overall, I don't see a team that we can't necessarily beat unless it comes down to us and Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals. But the way that Luka's playing, the way that the team is rallying around, the way that we are getting after it on the defensive end, I would not be surprised if we make a 2011 type of run to where it's kind of one focalized player leading the way, like Luka would be relevant to Dirk in a way, but in also a different way. So yeah, no, the Mavericks are playing great. I can't complain. Obviously, normally I'm kind of one of those people that is a little bit more on the realistic side, or should I say, in Kyle's sense, the negative side. But I like the way we're playing basketball lately. I'm finally happy the way that we're kind of settling and going into the postseason. We're catching fire at the right time.
I think to kind of pinpoint what you were trying to say, I think you try to take a more like a rational approach when it comes to the Mavericks, simply just because I think you're of the mindset that like the Mavs are having a great stretch the second half of the season. I mean, they have one of the better records as far as really from the All Star break on up to now. They've been phenomenal, and I mean the last 10 games they're 7-3, and I had the pleasure of them absolutely beating the brakes off the Lakers. Granted, I'm a Lakers fan, and it was just nasty watching the Mavs just going out and giving it to the Lakers from the first quarter all the way to the fourth quarter. Now, with that said, when it comes to the Mavericks and just the impact that they could have on this year's playoffs in the Western Conference, I think that they could potentially be a dark horse this year. And here's why. I think everybody knows that Phoenix is clearly the best team in the Western Conference and the NBA. And the Grizzlies are not too far behind. But the one thing that I like about the Mavericks this year is that they've been kind of flying under the radar pretty much the entire year up until about right now. And just because when you look at the national media coverage that we've seen with the Mavericks, it's mostly been pinpointed around Luka Doncic, who is clearly having an MVP caliber season this year. He's at the top of the scorers as far as the top scorers in the NBA. He's right alongside like guys like LeBron James, Joel Embiid, Giannis, and Nikola Jokic. I mean, all those guys can score. But when I watched Luka play the other day against the Lakers, the one thing that I just appreciate about his game is that even though he doesn't necessarily carry super athletic traits somebody like John Morant does, where he could just attack the rim and he could just use his speed to his advantage. Luka's step back, there's not a lot of answers for that. And when he's able to get just the littlest separation from his defender, there's a very good chance that he's going to be able to knock it down behind the 3-point line. And the guy's been absolutely killing it pretty much the entire second half of the season. And not only that, I really think that the addition of Spencer Dinwiddie has been phenomenal. He's been a great role player ever since he showed up with Dallas. He knocked down 2 back-to-back buzzer beaters just a couple weeks ago in dramatic fashion. And he adds just that nice veteran piece to come off the bench for Dallas and really solidify a great rotation. Because, I mean, when you look at the starting 5 that the Dallas Mavericks had, I mean, all the focus is going to be around Luka. But whenever Dwight Powell gets involved with the pick and roll that he's with Luka, that's actually a pretty solid combo if they're able to just link up on those lob passes on the pick and roll. You have Dorian Finney-Smith. You have a boatload of other players that you could use to your advantage just to space the floor. Because whenever Luka has the ball, the space is going to be open for guys to knock down shots. I mean, one guy that you mentioned, Jalen Brunson. I like Brunson. Brunson is a solid player. Is he a superstar? No. But he's a solid, excuse me, he's a solid piece for what the Mavericks need on the offensive side of the ball. And just as of late, they've all been clicking. Now, as far as what do I think their playoff aspirations are going to be, I think their ceiling this year could potentially be the Western Conference Finals, but no more after that. I think if they were to get there, it would be a shock to me just because I think Phoenix is a better team than Dallas. I think that the Grizzlies are a better team than Dallas. But overall, Dallas is not a team to be slept on. They could easily get into the second round, and they could probably bring some havoc to whoever they're going to face in the second round. But overall, this team is making the strides that it needs to. They're still a relatively young team, but they're kind of rounding into form. And really, the only thing that they're going to need moving forward is just kind of more playoff experience down the stretch. I think this year, like I said, I think best case scenario is they make the Western Conference Finals and they get bounced out. But I think the more realistic approach for them this year, they'll make the second round. I think they'll have a hard fought battle in the second round. That I think that's where they get bounced out. But this team, Kevin, I know that you're a team, and I don't want to ride Dallas too hard here, but this is a team that I don't think people can sleep on moving forward. This team is legit. Granted, I did just see them just whoop the Lakers' ass the other day, and that may be playing a factor into why I'm kind of giving Dallas a little bit more shine here. But overall, I think this team is on the verge. I don't think it's this year. I think it'll be next year. That's just how I see it.